Hello everyone, I just want to share with you a way to fix the center drive shaft support on your Porsche Cayenne without having to replace the entire drive shaft. This is using an aftermarket solution from European Parts Solution, EPS. Um, and it's basically um, a two-part mount that you can slip over the existing drive shaft without pulling the drive shaft out. If you have a Porsche Cayenne that's older, mine's a 2008 with high miles, this is a common problem. The center uh, support of the existing drive shaft is like a rubber grommet. It wears out over time, and it'll start to thump, and you can't drive it like that. You'll bust all kinds of things up. So that's what happened to me. And when I called to find out exactly what it would cost, it was about 900 for just the drive shaft, and then you had to add the labor to that. I debated doing the drive shaft myself. There's some trickiness with that too, I guess, because it can get bound in the back. One YouTuber said he had to unbolt it and drive on his driveway back and forth in order to get the drive shaft to come out. So it's a pretty kind of involved deal. This is a really nice solution that you can do without having to pull the drive shaft out. So this is the kit that I got from EPS. You can see that it has, on the left side, there's a flange where it bolts up to the transmission. And then on the right, where the arrow's pointing, is the actual mount itself. I did not use the flange. The one I had was in good shape, and it kind of looks like you probably have to pull the drive shaft out in order to use the flange. So that's the part, and then there is a bit of work to get the existing support out, and I will show you that next. So first thing you want to do is jack up your Cayenne, and you can see behind this bracing the drive shaft. You can see the flange up at the front, and then what's behind this brace is where the existing grommet is, or existing support is. So you remove all these bolts, drop this brace off, and then you will see, in my case, this is the brace, and it has, I can stick a stick through there. You can see like parts of the rubber have been eroded away, and so once I unbolted it, it was loose. I could slip it up. I slipped it kind of forward, get the best possible access to it, and I used a cutoff tool. This is just a $75 Husky tool you can buy at Home Depot. It plugs into air compressor. You'll have to have a decent sized air compressor for this. You can cut this off in other ways. This was just an easy way to do it. So I stuck the wood stick through, kind of braced it away from the drive shaft, and then I used this cutoff tool to work on that until I cut through the metal, and then you just kind of like pry it and it comes all the way off. In fact, this is what it looks like once you're cut through. It's not real thick metal. You could probably do it with a hacksaw, probably a bit more work. It's pretty sturdy, but you could do it. So that's the first thing that you've got to do. After that, there's this ring that this was actually, you can see the rubber that I'm cutting away there. This is actually part of the drive shaft that we had pulled off where it was torn. That was actually, that rubber was attached to this wheel, and it has bearings beneath it. And so the support fits to that, and then the drive shaft can spin underneath it without slamming around. And then it has some flex. So the first thing you do is you take a razor and you just cut off as much of that rubber as you can. And again, this is where the cutoff tool is very useful. So it's like a grinder. So once I got the majority of the thick stuff off with my razor, then I ran the cutoff tool and just kind of ground it, and worked really well. It was pretty easy work. Probably the whole thing took me an hour, and I would say I'm not the most experienced with any of this and any of these tools. So yeah, you can see here, this is after I have the ring kind of ground and cleared off. You can see that most of the rubber's gone. You kind of got down to a little bit of metal. It doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. It just has to fit within the new support, which is machined to fit around that. That's why you have to get most of that rubber off. You can see I have the top half of the support already in there, and as you can see, it's two parts. You slide the first part up and over, and then you put the other one underneath, screw them together. So you can see that there is, I have a pick tool and I'm pulling out a rubber gasket, and this holds in, you can kind of pry it forward and let it slip it away from the ring. That's because this ring has bearings in it, and if you're at this point you probably have high miles, it's probably a really good thing to repack that the bearings in that ring. It's easy to do. The little pick tool, you just kind of like catch the little rubber stopper ring, you pull it forward. I think I had to pull the mount out in order to do this. Pull it forward, there's a second one inside, you pull that forward, and then you just take some high friction grease. I used SCP Moly EP, and you pack the bearings, very easy, and then you just push those little gaskets back in, and then the mount that you put back on there will hold that in place. And you've got a repacked drive shaft, which is going to give you longer life. And that's basically it. Once you're done, you can see the top mount part of the support in the upper right, and then the bottom part, and there's a couple of screws or bolts that you stick through there. I put a little bit of Loctite on there, tightened them down. Hand tight, a little bit of extra tension, not super tight, didn't need it, I don't think. And then you bolt, then you put the bracing back on, and then you bolt that mount to the bracing. It's fitted to exactly replace the previous mount. And you're good to go. Those little rubber tubes that you can see that are kind of like the shock absorbers for this, those are made out of silicone. I guess they're actually like better than manufacturer. They're probably never going to go bad. You'll probably be done with this vehicle before you ever have a problem with the drive shaft again. And that's it. Thanks.